In the quiet little town of Meadowbrook, nestled between rolling green hills and a sparkling river, lived a baker named Arthur. His bakery, the Rolling Pin, wasn't just a shop. It was the heart of the town. Every morning, the scent of fresh bread, sweet pastries, and warm cinnamon rolls would drift through the streets, waking everyone up with a smile. Arthur had inherited the bakery from his father, who had inherited it from his father. It was more than a business. It was a legacy. Arthur was a master of his craft. His hands, though dusted with a permanent layer of flour, moved with a gentle precision that could turn simple ingredients into works of art. People would travel from neighboring towns just to taste his famous apple pie or his sourdough bread, which had the perfect crunchy crust and soft, airy inside. For 30 years, Arthur's life had followed a comfortable rhythm. Wake before dawn, mix the dough, bake the bread, serve his customers, and close up shop as the sun set. He loved his work, and the town loved him for it. But one cold autumn night, disaster struck. A faulty wire in the old oven sparked a fire. It started small, a flicker in the darkness, but it grew quickly, feeding on the dry wooden shelves and sacks of flour. By the time the fire brigade arrived, the flames were dancing high into the night sky. Arthur stood across the street, wrapped in a blanket someone had given him, watching in helpless silence as his life's work turned to ash. The smell of smoke replaced the familiar scent of baking bread, and a heavy sadness settled over Meadowbrook. The next morning, the sun rose over a heartbreaking scene. The Rolling Pin was a charred ruin. The sign, now blackened and barely readable, hung crookedly from a single hinge. The community gathered, their faces a mixture of shock and sorrow. They brought Arthur coffee and offered words of comfort, but he could barely respond. He felt hollow, as if a part of him had burned away with the bakery. The legacy he was meant to protect was gone. Days turned into weeks. Arthur stayed at home, the silence of his house deafening without the familiar hum of the mixers and the warmth of the ovens. He stopped seeing his friends and ignored the concern calls. The joy he once found in creating was replaced by a deep sense of failure. He felt he had let down not only himself but his father, his grandfather, and the entire town. The thought of starting over was overwhelming. Where would he even begin? The weight of the loss was like a physical stone on his chest. One afternoon, there was a soft knock at his door. It was young Lily, a girl who often visited the bakery with her mother. She held a small, slightly misshapen loaf of bread in her hands. "Mr. Arthur," she said shyly, "my mom and I tried to make bread. It's not as good as yours, but we thought you might like some." Arthur looked at the small loaf. It was lumpy and a little pale, but it was made with care. He took it, and for the first time in weeks, a genuine, though small, smile touched his lips. "Thank you, Lily," he said, his voice raspy from disuse. "This is very kind." That small act of kindness was like a tiny seed planted in the barren ground of his despair. The next day, another neighbor dropped off a jar of homemade jam. Then the local carpenter, Mr. Henderson, stopped by. "Arthur," he said, "I've got some good wood I've been saving. When you're ready, I'd be happy to help you rebuild the shelves." Slowly, Arthur began to realize something important. The bakery wasn't just his legacy. It belonged to the whole town. The community wasn't just his customers. They were his friends, his extended family. They missed the Rolling Pin not just for the bread, but for the warmth, the community, and the connection it provided. Inspired by their support, a flicker of hope ignited within him. It was a small flame, much like the one that had destroyed his shop, but this one was different. This one brought warmth, not destruction. He started by cleaning up the site. It was hard, dusty work. Sifting through the debris felt like sifting through painful memories. But with each piece of charred wood he cleared, he felt a little lighter. Soon, he wasn't alone. Neighbors came with shovels and wheelbarrows. Friends brought lunch and cold drinks. The cleanup became a community project. Laughter began to fill the air where smoke had once been. Mr. Henderson was true to his word, showing up with his tools and lumber to frame out the new interior. The town's electrician offered to rewire the whole place for free, ensuring it was safer than ever. A Rebuild the Bakery fund was started at the town hall. People donated what they could, some gave money. Others offered their time and skills. Children painted colorful pictures of bread and cakes to decorate the temporary wooden walls. Arthur was deeply moved. He had always been the one giving to the community, and he never realized how much they were willing to give back. With a new modern oven funded by the town's donations, Arthur started to bake again. He began in his own small kitchen at home, experimenting with new recipes alongside his old favorites. The creative spark he thought was extinguished was now burning brighter than ever. He felt a renewed sense of purpose. He wasn't just rebuilding a building. He was rebuilding a home for the heart of the town. The day the rolling pin reopened was a town-wide celebration. The new bakery was beautiful. It was a little more modern, but it had the same cozy, welcoming feel as the old one. The sign was new, freshly painted, but it looked just like the original. As Arthur unlocked the door, the scent of freshly baked bread once again wafted through the streets of Meadowbrook. This time it smelled like more than just bread. It smelled like resilience, community, and the courage to start again. The shop was filled with happy chatter and the sounds of people enjoying his creations. Lily and her mom were the first in line, and Arthur handed her a perfectly golden cinnamon roll on the house. As he looked around at the smiling faces, Arthur knew that the fire had taken his bakery, but it had given him something invaluable in return. The understanding that true strength is about never falling, but about having the courage to rise again, especially when you have others to help you stand. The rolling pin was back, stronger and sweeter than ever, a testament to the fact that even from ashes, something beautiful can grow. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more cozy stories. We'll see you in the next one.